All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Growthentic podcast. We're on episode 12 here. You got myself, Shane Chalupa, with co host Sam Lee. We have a new format coming to you. Hopefully, it'll be a little more engaging and value add for all the listeners out there. In the first half, I break down the fear barrier with AI by just foundational basic elements and knowledge so that you all can come up to speed and feel confident and comfortable utilizing the LLMs out there like ChatGPT.
Awesome. And yeah, Shane mentioned the new format. Don't worry, we'll still fit in some personal professional development updates every other episode, just so that you can all stay in the know on how business is going. But yeah, for today's episode, what I really wanted to focus on was setting things up in your Google Cloud account so that we can start integrating a Gemini API key. Why that's so important. It allows us to then pursue a lot of new tactics, whether it's screaming frog crawls to assess duplicate content, semantic similarity, all kind of technical jargon, basically to help SEOs, marketers, and business owners be a little bit more relevant in this day of new ways of searching. And it's absolutely critical for practitioners for sure. Um, and yeah, it's a step-by-step kind of walkthrough with a screen share. And both for Shane and myself, we have some material that we're able to share as well. So stay tuned. This is a really good one. We really look forward to future episodes just like this, where we make it a lot more actionable, and hopefully gets you over that hump of feeling overwhelmed and really taking advantage of the technologies that are available to us.
Yeah, definitely want to gonna stay on this one the whole time through. Some really great resources available as you go through. So stay tuned, enjoy, and look forward to engaging.
Thank you all. Hey, Shane.
All right. Hey, Sam.
How's it going, man?
It is going well. It's Friday. Sun's out finally here in Eastern Pennsylvania. So cannot complain at all. It's going to get pretty hot, but hey, it's summer. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's been super hot here over here. My neck of the woods, man, running in this weather has been so challenging. Um, yeah, like today, I purposely woke up super, super early to get my run in before prepping for this session, which I'm so excited about. We'll tease it a little bit. Definitely stay tuned for the whole session, guys. This is a little different from our normal episodes and our normal agenda. Um, and Shane, I think if I wanted to kind of sum up, what the driving kind of motivation for us to do this, there's just probably so many kind of things that kind of drove us to do it. Things like giving information for free, wanting to develop new skills ourselves. Um, but even leading up to today, a lot, the couple words that have been on my mind, or the couple phrases that I've had on my mind was like, I want to learn to teach people. But in doing so, also want to teach by learning. So I think it's going to be a really great time. The topics are going to be very, very varied. Um, I'm coming from an SEO perspective. Shane's coming from an engineering perspective, but we're also building our businesses at the same time. So there's so many things that I think we have to learn, but also to teach along the way. So I'm really excited about this. Any thoughts from your end before we hop right into it?
Yeah, I think the format switch is going to be really beneficial for everybody. We wanted to keep the original thought and mantra around authentic personal and professional growth. And I think this new format is really going to allow us to kind of deep dive into both sides of that, where we're looking at today, we're going to be kind of on that. It's both personal and professional, what we're going to be talking about, because I certainly use AI all over the place, but it allows us to look kind of technically at one aspect, and then in another episode we'll be able to think and talk a little bit more about the growth and updates of where we're at in our journey. But this is going to be a new way that'll hopefully be engaging and also just value add for the audience. I think just sharing what we're learning is going to benefit so many people and really, I always think the rising tide raises all boats, and just putting it out there, because if you find helpful tips, I'm getting helpful tips from other people that I'm listening to. So I want to share that and pay it forward for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, look, without further ado, let's hop right into it. Look, these formats, I'm going to act as kind of the proxy for the audience, a representation for the audience, or representative. So it's your show, man. Introduce us to what you plan to present today, and yeah, we'll follow along.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm super excited about this topic. And for those of you who have been following along, know that interestingly enough, Sam and I reconnecting, going through our business development journey, Sam being a bit ahead of me, and I'm coming in and kind of starting relatively recently. But a lot of our conversations over the past 6 months have been converging on one topic. And it's probably the biggest or one of the biggest topics out there today, both from a personal and a business perspective. And that's just AI in general. And for this conversation, I want to make sure we're grounded. Disclaimer: I am not a PhD in data science or computer science or AI for that matter. AI is a really broad term that's used for so many different meanings at this point because of the vast nature and pervasive nature that it is in our lives and all the different equipment and tools that we've got going on. So, disclaimer there, this is not going to be some yeah, it's definitely not going to be a PhD dissertation here in AI. I am going to be hopefully talking at and meeting most people at their level today. And I thought, what better way to start it than just groundwork foundations? We've talked on the podcast in the past about fear and anxiety around AI. And I wanted to really double click on that and dive in, give everybody that knowledge and a little bit of training here to hopefully assuage any fears, and then start building a little bit of momentum of like, hey, I can do this. I can utilize this. It does provide value. I'm not going to be scared of it. I'm going to bring it in and incorporate it into my life. That being said, there's a lot of skeptics and naysayers out there. And if you want to stay on that boat, then have at it. But just so you're aware, AI has been in our lives for a long time now already. Historically, let's just look at it at a grounded historical level. If you look back, the term artificial intelligence was coined at Dartmouth in the US in 1956. Okay, let that sink in. 1956. Many people, probably the vast majority of the people, if not all, that are going to listen to this and see this, were not even close to being born at that point. So just understand that AI has lineage dating back for a long time. And it comes from the fact that there are people out there trying to utilize systems to mimic how humans think, act, and make decisions. That's what it is at a basic level. And the other piece is AI is not some humanoid robot, even though it's communicated and visualized in these other more tangible things that we see, like robots, self-driving cars, all that fun stuff. Really, it's a branch of computer science. It's grounded in science, and the backing of it is just how to utilize computer science to mimic human thoughts, behaviors, actions, so that way other systems can perform tasks and functions and process information and data like a human does. So right out of the gate, we're not, even though it's become very, very mainstream as of the last 18 months, let's say, and definitely the last 6, it has been around for a long time. So this is not really a new concept. It's just that it's becoming mainstream for everybody to utilize, just like when the iPod got released and when computers first got released, the internet, all these things, though these things had existed in the background, it's just they weren't mainstream yet. And now AI has become mainstream. And really, when I'm saying AI, I am saying the way that most people, the consumer, can interface with it, which is through the LLM, a large language model. And so when I say AI, I'm generally talking about large language models, LLMs, and we're talking about something that we can interact with in a chat-based format that can parse vast, and is trained on vast amounts of knowledge and data and information nearly the extent of the internet. So think about it as something that's trained on almost everything that's been published. Now, each LLM has its pros and cons. We'll get into that a little bit here. I'm going to spend probably about 15 minutes or so going through this, but I wanted to get everybody grounded in like, okay, take a deep breath. It's not, AI is not robots coming to take over the world, take over our jobs, and consume us. It's really grounded in something that was developed, again, coined in 1956. The thoughts around it date back even further than that. And today, it's now just become more mainstream because of the release of the LLMs. Major LLMs, let's talk through those real quick. In general, most people are going to know about ChatGPT. You might have heard recently about DeepSeek. And then there are some other ones that are a little bit lower profile in the sense of they weren't necessarily the first, but they're up and coming, and there's major backing behind them. You have things like Gemini and Notebook LM, which is built on Gemini in the Google app sphere and arena. You have Microsoft's Copilot in the Microsoft environment. And then there are others like Claude by Anthropic and other ones like Perplexity, Manus, and the list goes on. I'm going to focus today's conversation on what's mainstream because most people can afford it and utilize it today. I would say if you're looking for a general tool that's going to get you out of the box, kind of the most universal across the board, consistent, pretty good results, ChatGPT is a great Swiss Army knife, do it all type application LLM. You can go to their paid version, individual, for just over $20 a month with tax. That $20 a month is going to unlock so much for you. I'm going to give you some really fun examples that I've been using on the personal side and then dive in a little bit on the professional side. Outside of that, a little bit of a drawback is ChatGPT, privacy, all of these things. I tend to gravitate more towards Claude right now. There's a couple of reasons for that. One being data privacy. Claude is the right now front runner for data privacy, safety, all of that. Through their API, you can get HIPAA compliance. They have that, and then they also have SOC 2. And they're not training the model on your data if you're not in the paid environment. In ChatGPT, if you get the paid subscription, which I would recommend, then you can go into your settings in there and you want to go to data controls. Under data controls, the top line in there, it's really unassuming and almost kind of hidden. And you're going to want to go in and it will say, train the model, help train the model for others with your data. And you want to turn that off. It's going to come on out of the box. You want to turn that off. That way, the information you're feeding it is not training the model. It can still pull from the model. It's not sending your information out for training the model. So that's a good grounding point, starting point there. All right. So now you're either in the top three that I've been working with and in are ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity. They each have pros and cons. I tend to gravitate more towards Claude right now. It's very good at capturing tone, content writing. It's fantastic at writing code. And you can also run it in preview mode now. So a little hack. If you're in Claude and you're utilizing it to generate whatever, a presentation or a color palette or something visual, you can actually say, hey, generate a preview for me. And in the sidebar, which is called the artifacts, it will actually start coding and building whatever you want a preview of. It's not like the world's best of anything, but it is a starting point so you can work in that environment to really refine what you're doing and then take that output and put it into something like if you're making a presentation, throw it over into Gamma. Or I know Google's presentation format, they have their own AI version to make presentations, and same thing for Microsoft now with Copilot. You can prompt it for making presentations. But little hack there, in Claude, hit preview. I just did this a couple of weeks ago. I was working on color palette for our brand, and I wanted to see like, oh, what do these colors actually look like? Started going through it, and it just I was like looking for a preview of those colors, and it built out my entire website because I have trained it on all of my information and data. And within the projects in there, it knows enough. And I'm working inside my marketing assistant that I've built in the projects area. And it starts building out my website for me. And it was incredible, unbelievable what it could do just in the preview. And then if you really wanted to, you can take the HTML code right out of there, pop it over into a website if you wanted to do that. It's wild.
And Shane, sorry, when you say projects, can you elaborate on what that is? Is it just me going into Claude and talking to the chatbot, the AI search experience, or is it a specific feature within Claude?
Yeah, very good question. Let's go through the basics of once you're in set up, you got your data privacy all set up. The next step is how we interact with it. So there's in each one is a little bit different, but at the general level, the most interactions are going to be if you're looking at ChatGPT, you're going to have just a basic chat, which will have its own individual memory, and you can search it and find it in your history, just kind of like an instant messaging chat almost with different people. So that's available to you. That's the basic level. And then layered on top of that conversation is you don't want to be talking to this thing or not even just typing into it like it's Google. You got to get away from the old Google habit of, find this specific thing, right? It's so ingrained in our brains of how to do that. We need to think differently about it. And it's really thinking about it as it's built and designed to be and think like a human. You need to talk to it like it is a human. You're going to converse with it like it's a human. You're going to have multiple inputs to get to the final conclusion that you want. It's not going to be a one-hit wonder like Google, where you search, you refine your search, you do it again, iterate, iterate, iterate. Now we're just having conversations and we're heading in a direction that we want to go. So there's the chat. There is also, you'll notice in ChatGPT, there's two other areas if you're paid. You've got custom GPTs, which are, I like to think of those as like a processor or a tool that will do very specific things, which is built upon the back end of it, which are custom instructions and then a knowledge base, which are files and references. Let's think of it like a knowledge base or a reference base. Those instructions tell it how to interact with both the chat interface as well as the knowledge base. So that gets you set up for a custom GPT. Now, why would you go there? Well, custom GPT is good because you can share it and put it kind of in the what looks like almost like an app store, and you can publish that out for anybody to utilize and search and find. Also great if you want to build something that's a tool that other people would benefit from and you want to share it with them. Custom GPT is going to be your go-to for that. Alternatively, well, the downside to the custom GPT, because I know it's going to come up, is memory. You will have one conversation or chat available with the custom GPT, and you can keep going in that chat as long as you want. There's some limit set in there, but most people aren't going to breach that limit. But at the end of the day, all that ends up becoming is just a chat in your history, and it's very hard to read, and there's no memory really built in. So if you need to come back to this in the future because it's for helping write proposals or marketing content or whatever, that's not really going to be your go-to. You want to use that as a processor where you're feeding in an input and you're getting an output, and you're taking that output and you're doing something with it. And you're going to do that same process over and over. And it can be a couple. I would say you want to try and keep it 1 to 3 like processes that you're going to run through it that are very similar. But we don't want to be utilizing that for memory based things that are going to grow over time and get smarter, because the only way that's going to get better at remembering what it's doing and helping learn your voice, your tone, what outputs you want, is you have to continuously update the back end in the knowledge base in the files. All right. Custom GPTs probably seem a little scary, but they have their place. I would say most people are going to benefit from just on the fly chatting and having a framework for that. And then the second part they're going to benefit from is projects, which you now have folders, little folders in ChatGPT, Claude, and in Perplexity, they have spaces. And I think now you have like little folders and subcategories. It's really for categorizing things. And the benefit there is you retain the memory, you organize your thoughts and conversations into a set container. And now on those, you'll see an area to upload files, and you'll see an area to put in custom instructions. So now you can make that container very customized and specific to what you want to do with this particular. I would say to think of it as an assistant, or this is a role that you want to do, or you want it to do for you. So we're thinking, in my case, I always go back to theory of constraints for the business. Triangle, you've got three pieces. We've got marketing, sales, and then like delivery / operations, however you want to think about it. But when you boil it down, those are the three parts of business. There's more, but they all fit into those three categories. So really, we want projects to can be uh, focused on those areas and being a person. Your chief marketing officer and marketing manager, your head of copywriting, your head of sales, like whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. But it's like basically your expert trained on your specific products, your services, your tone, all of that information. Those are your assistants, and they're the world's best trained on your specific information. The benefit there is the outputs that you get are going to more closely match your tone, your voice. You can customize how it comes out. So that way we get away from this just synthetic AI generated content that's kind of garbagey out there online. And we get more into, no, this is really Shane's thought and idea. This is your thought, your idea. It's just you're utilizing it to actually write and do the basically copywriting and getting all that material together to now it's there. Then you're taking that, you're reviewing it, you're kind of turning it, and then you can then take it from there, review it, make sure it's your tone, your voice. I always like to, the LLMs are notorious for copying other content and things like that for plagiarism. So you would want to run it through a plagiarism checker, make sure that it is truly your tone, your thought, your voice, your ideas. And when you do that, if you train it properly, it will truly start to put out outputs of like, wow, that's what I was thinking. I just didn't feel like typing that. And you're getting these outputs in seconds. So that's projects. They retain the memory. You can easily update the backend with information, custom instructions, and those are things that you're doing repetitively, but you want to keep the history and the memory going within that container. Good place for projects. Also, if you're just like writing a bunch of proposals, not a bad idea to have a proposal capsule there within projects. Now, outside of that, like when would you just use a regular chat? Well, doing one-off things, right? For this is a good real life example, and then I'm going to kind of close my section here a little bit because we've got definitely the foundations, but I'll give it a real life example, and I would encourage people to one, go ahead, get a paid version, either go Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity, and get familiar with it. So that way you can start utilizing it day to day. And then my real life example is whichever one you like. In this case, the last 2 nights in a row, our dog Hudson, you'll see him on my Instagram. He's a 6-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog. The last 2 nights, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's up in the middle of the night coming up and he's like panting and kind of licking his lips and his mouth a little bit. So we're like a little worried about it. And, last night when I wake up at 2 a.m., I'm thinking, oh man, I got to take him to the vet on Friday today. This is not going to be good. Well, I get up, I put in the information, like I give it all the information into ChatGPT, and I use a specific framework for my prompts. So when I'm prompting what I call, people will call on the fly, you're just kind of spitballing and you're just doing a chat. I use the W3C format, which is who do you want the AI to be, which is generally the expert in whatever topic you're trying to dig into. Then I do why and how. So, like, why am I asking this request? How do I want the output to be? What's all the context? Just brain dump on it, talk to it just like you would a human. And then the next part is what, which is the specific request that you want, the output, the final thing. Like, what are you asking it to do? And then the last part, and this one has been a huge unlock for me that I've learned from people that I've been in trainings with is you ask it at the end, please ask me any clarifying questions. And when you do that, it really unlocks it into another level because it stops and has to think about all the information you gave it. And it says, do I have all the data that I need to give you a good result? It's not always foolproof, but it's going to give you way better results over time. And so back to my example this morning, you are the world's best vet specialized in Bernese Mountain Dogs. And here's the situation the last 2 nights. He's been waking up around 2 a.m., 3 a.m. He's coming up. He's a little bit frantic and he's panting heavily. He's drooling a little bit. He's licking his mouth. But if I come down and kind of console him and hang out for 30 minutes, he eventually calms down, relaxes, all this. So if you remember, I said, oh man, I'm going to have to call the vet. Well, I put it into ChatGPT this morning, prompted up, like I just said, and it comes back and it says, oh, well, actually, here's kind of the top 3 things that it might be. And realistically, are you feeding him his dinner early? Because he might be having some gastric acid reflux, essentially. And once he gets up and comes up and sees you, he gets up, he's moving, it settles the acid in the stomach, he's able to relax and go back to sleep. Well, yeah, actually, ironically, the past few weeks we've changed his feeding schedule to get him on to just 2 feedings a day. And he's been wanting his dinner earlier in the afternoon. So now it says, okay, we'll trial giving him a snack right before bed, just like a little piece of chicken, a little bit of pumpkin or something. Nothing big, nothing huge calorie wise, but give him a little something and see if it gets him through the night. And if it resolves, give it 2 to 3 days. And if not, then you need to track it and go see the vet. Well, right then and there, that saved me a vet visit, which is going to be one to, depending on where you are in the country, 1 to 500 or $800, especially if it's urgent care. So, I mean, I have so many examples of this day to day where Mary and I are using this day in, day out. We use the picture function on our phones. So if you see something, is this poison ivy? Photo, ask it. Yes or no. It will tell you with a pretty high reliability rate. Now, it's not going to be perfect all the time, and it's not a replacement for professionals. It's not a replacement for a vet, all that. It's just for you to get informed and say, okay, instead of Googling all this, I can just have 2 seconds while I'm in the middle of something to get informed and be like, okay, that makes sense. That's reasonable. Let's give it a few days and then we'll go get it checked out. So, wow, that was a lot. And I think I've kind of gone through all the stuff I wanted to get through today. It's the basics right now. If anybody out there is interested in like what this looks like in just a format that they can have, I reach out to me on Instagram or LinkedIn, Shane Chalupa. For Instagram, it's at Shane Chalupa, ShaneChalupa. I'm happy to send you my 1-page cheat sheet on AI foundations and basics. Goes through a lot of what we covered today. Quick reference for you while you're going about your day, just to be able to utilize AI better, both professionally and personally. Thanks.
I I love that. Thanks, Shane. And I love the breakdown of the use cases tied to just a regular one-off chat, custom GPT, and a project. Because as you're doing the one-off conversations about Hudson, I was thinking once you start collecting information about him having that gastric issue, changing in feeding schedule, and then if and when you do go to the vet, you'll probably get some data as far as some of his kind of medical characteristics. Those are all probably things then you can add into a project, right? Because you would want an assistant to have all of this information not disparately held in hundreds of different conversations, but have it in one area. And based on what you were kind of educating us on today, I feel like a project would be a great source or a function or feature to use if you do want some sort of like vet assistant at like 3 in the morning. You don't have to
Yeah.
give it much context anymore. You can just fire off a question and be somewhat confident in the response that you're getting, that it has a lot of the context needed.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a great point. Another little tip and trick is if you start something as just a one off chat, you can then go into the history, hit the 3 dots, and then convert and move that over to a project. So if you're like, oh, I'm actually doing a lot of stuff with, right now we're in this medical phase with Hudson and we got a lot of stuff going on. you can pop that over into a project, and then you could start you could take pictures of any information that you've gotten historically, upload that into the knowledge base, and then it will know kind of Hudson's whole background, his history. So that way, like you said, something else happens, you're like, hey, you know all this, his medical history essentially. And can you tell me like what's going on? Should we be concerned? What's the level of urgency here? And it can be really useful. And for human side, I mean, it can certainly help head off major problems and be life saving in some instances. So it's a huge tool just on the chat basis, and then building history by throwing it over into the project. That was a great value add there.
Awesome, man. Well, again, guys, reach out to Shane. That one sheeter that he mentioned, I've already taken a look at. I asked him for it when he mentioned that he had it because I was just so intrigued about it. The W3C framework, man, that is a big unlock. Um, a lot of the things that I'm doing on Chat GPT, um, to support kind of my SEO tactics, I found that the outputs have been getting better with that context modeling. I would always end up there, but it would require a lot more back and forth. So just starting off a conversation with that framework will save you a lot of time. So I think that that's only one little bit within his one shooter. So definitely take him up on that offer to get that sent over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate that. Happy to also engage with anybody who's got questions, wants the link to the one pager, the cheat sheet, I call it. And now I think now that everybody's got a little bit of a foundation, some groundwork here, we're hopefully starting to break down the fear barrier, lower that anxiety level. And now we're going to let Sam see a little bit deeper use case here to where it could apply. Not only I gave you some personal stuff, but also really help with your professional side. And it just so happens that with Sam, this whole thing is completely upending. Like I said, the old way of Googling things is getting upended. And I think Sam's got some really hot sauce stuff here. So I'm excited to sit in and understand this. And even though everybody might not be an SEO, this framework and the way Sam thinks about things, let's pay attention here and be able to make correlations between his work and our jobs and our professional side to leverage this to ultimately empower us to work at a higher level.
Yeah, thanks for the preface there, Shane, because like he mentioned, when it comes to AI, LLMs, the way that Shane kind of grounded us in the first half of today, I'm certainly leveraging AI the way that Shane's approaching it for his business and for his personal life as well. Coming along with that is massive disruption, right? Because we're here talking about using chat to get information, to get answers. We're not talking about Google anymore. There are so many new ecosystems that people are searching in. Um, Probably a topic for another discussion is which chat I think is going to come out as the clear winner in 5 to 10 years. Um,
Oh, I
I
love
mean,
that. You want to give
I
a little
mean,
prediction right now?
my little prediction, I think it's going to be Google, man.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the things that Chat, Claude, what they're trying to do, if you look at the technology and how they're sourcing documents and data in the web, and even the partnerships that they have engaged with to teach their models, it's stuff that Google has been doing for a very long time. It's just being presented in a way that's far superior than the lexical way of us searching in Google 5 years ago, right? We can be more conversational. The release of Google AI mode, I think, um, should scare a lot of these tools like ChatGPT and Claude. But look, I'm not here saying Google is the only solution. Like I think you clearly mentioned, I think there's clear use cases between all the LLMs. And I think with more competition, these products are going to get better. And I think Google really needed a kick in their butt. They were just kind of sliding by. Bing wasn't doing anything. Yahoo was a thing of the past. I mean, who even uses DuckDuckGo besides, the 1% of people that search for things? So I think all in all, this is going to create a better search experience for the masses. But I think Google is always going to have the upper hand in terms of market share when it comes to search. Um, but yeah, we could get into that in
No,
another
I love that
at another
prediction,
time.
and we'll put that one in the archive here and reference back to that over the months and years ahead. And I think the picture that I get in my mind is the tortoise and the hare. And I think that, as with any new technologies, if you remember back there, like for the MP3 players, right? There were other things like Zune and all these things that were hot right out of the gate and got really adopted, but then they fizzled out. And so I would agree with you there that Google is sitting on all the data is the gold, and they're the leader in the data, all the back end of it, the information, how to manipulate it. So without a doubt, I cannot argue against that prediction. I love it.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think there's a cool juxtaposition between what Shane presented today and what I'm presenting. You know, leveraging AI for more efficient business operations or sales and marketing for your business, for your life. And on the flip side, for me, it's I think with AI search skyrocketing, there is that same level of fear that I can attest to, that I'm sure the SEO community can attest to. And it's very similar to the fear that I felt with all of these AI solutions coming out and me thinking, oh my God, I need agentic solutions to run my business now, or else I'm going to be, left in the dust. Uh, as we mentioned in previous episodes, get over that fear by educating yourself. And I think this form allows us to really provide bite sized materials for educational purposes so that you can start taking advantage of it instead of being consumed by it. So, what I intend to present today, I consider it pretty the actual walkthrough. I'm going to share my screen as well. I try to make it very simple. We won't go into too much depth today as far as what the utility of it. Um, what I ultimately want to do today is set up your I want to provide help with setting up your Google Cloud account, um, so that you can integrate it into a software called Screaming Frog. All my SEOs out there will know what Screaming Frog is, but for those that don't know, Screaming Frog is a way for you to crawl your website. What I mean by that, it'll go through your website, identify all the pages, all of the issues, and it's just a great way to understand the architecture and the information that's on your website. Um, so we're going to set up that Google Cloud account. That allows us to then use Screaming Frog and integrate it with a large language model. In particular, what we're going to do is integrate it with Gemini. And the reason why I want to encourage the listeners to integrate with Gemini is because of my hot take around Google being the clear winner in this AI race in the long term. Um, and what that also allows us is to kind of create parity between how Google looks at your website and how I, as an SEO, can assess my website. That parity gives us a lot of insights into, again, how Google is looking at your website, what are the core themes that your website is talking about, and the utility is massive. And we'll take future sessions to really unpack some tactical things that we're going to do with what we're setting up today. Um, so I'm going to share my screen. And before we go into that, what we're going to set up today is going to be quickly followed by one tactic that I want to pursue. In fact, I'm doing this for all of my clients currently. And the use case for setting all the things that we're going to set up today is so that we can better understand the content that's on any given website the way that Google understands the content on your website. Once we have that understanding, we can start weeding out the topics that are irrelevant to your business and to your industry. The reason why we want to eliminate that, that can really bring down the performance of your website from a search perspective. So, as an example, um, Shane, your business, Obnovit, if you started talking about business development and small business ownership, that's super irrelevant. But sometimes people just take liberty and write about whatever they want and post it in their blog or other sections within their website without knowing that that could ultimately drain and bring down the overall performance from a search perspective of their website. So that's the kind of tactical output that we're going to get closer to by setting up what we're setting up today. And like I mentioned, there's going to be loads of other things that we can do once we get through the setup portion of things. So I'm really excited to walk you through. I think that disclaimer that Shane had in the way beginning was definitely needed. Though I am an SEO expert, um, I really want to stick to this idea of I am learning to teach, but I'm also wanting to teach to learn new things as well. And so these are brand new skills, right? These are things that I didn't do 4 weeks ago. These are all things for me to stay more relevant as an SEO. Hopefully, it makes you more relevant as an SEO if you are in this space. And ultimately, we can provide some more wins for our clients.
Love it. Can't wait to jump in. And even as a non SEO person, I still find it really, really fascinating. And it's useful information for anybody out there who's got a website, because at a minimum, you're going to be able to understand the thought process behind it and talk in an educated manner to those, whether you're building your own, updating your own, or you're working with a designer and maybe they're not doing SEO. You can now have that informed discussion about how the direction you want your website to go.
Absolutely. And even if you just own your business and you have an SEO on contract or an agency on retainer, anything that you learn here, bring it up to them. Get their point of view on things. Is this the right practice for our business and our website? At least force a conversation. Hopefully, something really great will come out of it. All right. We're going to go through this step by step. I also have a PDF of the instructions. So, don't feel that you need to jot down notes and, have it all figured out. I'm happy to send over the instructions that we'll be going over today. So, first thing to do, go to console.cloud.google.com. From here, we're going to create a new project. So, oh, not there. You'll click on this tab here, click new project. If the project name for me, I'm going to name it something like SF, stands for Screaming Frog Semantic Analysis. That's kind of the goal and the reason why I'm creating this cloud account or a cloud project. I won't create it because I already have one created, but all you'll do is hit create at this point. From that point, click on this hamburger menu, go to your billing. There it goes. And then what you need to do here is just set up your billing account. So you go to manage billing account or payment method. And the reason why we're adding our billing account here, when you connect your cloud account or your Gemini API to Screaming Frog, as it uses the large language model, it incurs a cost. It's not a crazy amount of dollars. I mean, in fact, you could probably use ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm going to crawl a website that has this many pages and kind of get a feel for how much it would cost you to do things. But don't worry about it. I just crawled maybe 2,000 URLs and it was a couple of dollars. So set up your billing payment. From that point on, and I don't think I need to walk everybody through to on how to add a billing payment. From there, what we're going to do is enable Vertex AI API. The reason why we're doing this is a really important piece. This allows us to leverage the Gemini large language model. So what I just did, click on that hamburger menu, go to API, click on library. You'll search for Vertex AI API, click on that, and then you'll see an enable button. I've already enabled it, so it just says manage for now. All right, so once you've done that, we've enabled the possibility of leveraging Gemini as our go-to large language model. The next step, click on that hamburger menu, go to IAM and admin, and we're going to create a service account. Now we're really starting to get closer to getting an API key that leverages the Gemini large language model. And that API key is the secret sauce to integrating with Screaming Frog and honestly a lot of other tools out there that offer integration to Google Cloud. So what we'll do here now is click on Create Service Account up at the top. Let's name the service account something like Gemini Access, quite literal. Hit Create and Continue. We have to give permissions. It says optional. I like to assign it a user. The user that you'll select here is Vertex AI user. So hit that, continue, nothing to do with principals with access. And then at this point, you'll hit done. I've already done it, so I'm not going to hit done. Once you do hit done, you will get a pop-up screen that contains your JSON API key. I can't stress how important it is for you to save that key in a really, really safe space, either a GitHub or a password manager, something that you know won't be compromised or be publicly shared. I mean, if you want to write it down on paper and put it to the side, like you can do that. I mean, there's been some horror stories where people saving their Bitcoin wallet account and never finding it again. So I wouldn't advise that. But just make sure you secure that key that you get after you hit done here. Now, sometimes when you do that, you might get an error message. In fact, I received an error message when that happened. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to delete this one that I just almost created. I've scoured through the documents to find the way to bypass that error. That error that you'll see, it says service account creation is disabled by org policy. If you see that, go hit the hamburger menu, go to IAM and admin, and then go to your organization policies. What might be happening is that there's an organization. So for me, that would just be the KeyRise organization. Sam at keyriseconsulting.com is a user, but the organization has a default policy that's making it impossible for me to generate that super important API key. So when you're on this screen, you can just do a control find for disable service account key creation. So under this, go to the right, hit the three dots, go to edit policy. You'll hit, it will default on inherit parents policy. What you want to do is override the parents policy. Once you click that, this rules section will pop up, and you'll want to make sure that the enforcement is set to off. What that's effectively doing is that we're going to override, we're telling the platform to override any organization policies when it comes to creating that super important account key. So that should help you bypass that error if you do come across that error. So now that you have that API key, you're pretty much done in Google Cloud. You have free reins now to go into Screaming Frog, set up that integration, and go crazy. You can start identifying that irrelevant content. You can assess your website the way that Gemini assesses your website. You can look for pages that are way too similar that you want to consolidate, which in the SEO industry we call cannibalization. These are all things that we should be picking out of our website to then figure out what to do about it, because we know for a fact that it's draining the SEO performance and the SEO potential of our website. Now, so once we have that account key, what do we do in Screaming Frog? Luckily for us in the community, Screaming Frog does a fantastic job. They are like my go-to crawling software of choice. And their guide is damn near perfect. Like if you follow this guide, and again, if you need this URL, reach out to me. You could also just search for it. If you just follow these steps, you will get to a point where you have now integrated Gemini into your Screaming Frog. So I'll do that. It doesn't take too long. Um, so let me get Screaming Frog up.
And I'm assuming that Screaming Frog is a paid application given the
Screaming Frog.
utility.
Yes, it is a paid application. I think it's the best $250 I can spend a year
Oh
on
my
an
gosh, per
SEO
year?
tool.
That's
Yeah,
so worth it. Holy cow.
absolutely. If you add a user, you'll have to pay for another seat. But man, I mean, it's an absolute mandatory tool. Like without it, I would just not be able to do anything, to be really frank.
Amazing. And how much, I'm curious, how much of this process is similar to the way you used to do things versus now looking at Gemini and the LLMs?
That's such a good question. It's almost 180-degree change shift in the way that I do things. And here's the reason why. Before ChatGPT, before Google AI mode, before AI overviews, when we're just relying on the traditional blue links, it was all about keywords and assessing what keywords every page was ranking for. And that was sufficient enough to then create a bit of a roadmap of SEO tactics, projects, um, to better optimize your website. With the change in technology from Google's end on how to assess documents, assess websites, and present final information in AI overviews and in Google AI mode, the old way of assess for an SEO to assess a website through keywords has been really thrown out the window. So I'd say this might be going too far because I'm still in the throes of testing the output of this. I want to implement it for my clients and test the outcomes of it. So I don't want to confidently say this is the new way and only way of doing things. Um, for this particular use case, right? Just kind of understanding your website. But man, does it make sense, right? If the technology is going about it this way, then we as SEOs who historically benefited from reverse engineering these technologies has to operate, we have to operate in a very similar manner in parity with the technology. So I'm very bullish on it. I mean, the top SEO kind of voices and thought leaders are all doubling down on this as well. And at minimum, it's absolutely worth the time for all SEOs to spend time to understand how to do this and make a judgment call for themselves as well, right? Again, I'm an SEO expert, but this is all kind of new upskilling for myself.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Yep. All right. So quick, I think 5 minutes here, just to configure things in Screaming Frog to integrate with the Gemini API that we had just created. You'll go to configuration, head down to API access, and under the AI dropdown, you'll see all the models that they integrate with. We chose Gemini because of the reasons that I had provided, but you have other options if you would like to integrate with those options. So we'll click on Gemini. The API key is that secret key that I told you all to save. So mine's already preloaded here. Don't hit connect yet. There's a couple of other things that we want to set up. You want to go to prompt configuration, click on add from library. Now, for all my SEOs out there, this will make a lot of sense. We'll probably spend some time in future episodes to really dig into which one we want to select. But like I mentioned, once we get this all set up, the thing that I want to teach next is really understand the website and the content of the website the way that Gemini understands it, right? And so the thing that best represents that is extracting embeddings from page content. Embeddings is a fancy way of saying, you know, how in layman's term, I would say it's the way that that the Gemini technology understands content. It vectorizes words into numbers and creates relationships, and that's what the term embeddings means. So it's basically extracting how the large language model is understanding your page content. So we're going to select that for now, and we'll hit insert. All right. So at that point, you'll see this error message. Don't worry about that. We're going to follow up right after this to get rid of that error message. But for now, we are all good. Go back to account information, hit connect, and now you're fully integrated with the API that we just created together. Few final steps here. We saw that error message, so we want to address that. What you'll do is go to configuration, hit crawl configuration. You'll go to under spider, hit extraction, and you'll want to switch both store HTML and store rendered HTML. That's essential for the large language model to then vectorize and create embeddings for all the content that's being stored as either HTML or rendered HTML. Hit OK. Go back into crawl configuration. Last step here, go into content. Under embeddings, we're now configuring all the embeddings that we want this large language model to perform as it crawls through your website. So hit enable embedding functionality. This is that prompt that we had selected before where that error message popped up. So that's pre-selected. These are all use cases that come out of this integration. Semantic similarity, that means how similar is one piece of content to another? How similar is it compared to the overall theme of your website? So we certainly want to check that so we have awesome data to then really extract and gain insights from. And then let's also hit enable low relevance. Through the embeddings, we'll then be able to assess any piece of content that's super irrelevant to the main core topics that pertain to your business and your industry. We'll talk a little bit more about these similarity thresholds, low relevance thresholds. These are just default settings, which I think is perfectly fine. But based on the website that you're dealing with, you'll probably need to adjust those on a case-by-case basis. So we'll get to that in future episodes. But for now, hit OK. And then, for all my SEOs out there that know how to use Screaming Frog, you can go about crawling your website, a list of URLs, the same way that you would in the past. So I'm going to pause it there because we've gotten up to the point where now we've set everything up. We're now at the point where we can crawl a website and now utilize the output for a lot of cool things. And so definitely stay tuned for future episodes because this is where it starts getting really exciting. Actual tactics, data to validate, and again, going to share my screen. We'll do it step by step just so that we're all kind of getting over this feeling of being overwhelmed at AI search, eating into traffic, um, AI in general, accelerating and developing so quickly that we can't even get our hands on a few things to kind of learn and start implementing in our day to day. So I'm really excited. Hopefully, you found some of this helpful. And again, there is a white paper on this that I can send over to you all. So definitely reach out, LinkedIn, Instagram, whether through my personal channels or through Go Authentic. Happy to share all that information with you all.
Awesome. Thanks so much. This is incredible. The depth of knowledge exercised here is going to just springboard so many people who are lost in the sauce, overwhelmed, maybe head in the sand with this, like you said, 180-degree shift. There's not a lot of industries out there that have a technology shift in recent memory where you're literally turning the entire thing upside down on its head. And that is what this technology is doing out there across the board. And even on my side, in kind of the technical engineering space, it's a much more gradual buildup. But for sure, the people that are out there starting to think about get the foundational training, which I've been doing a ton of those for private clients lately, as we've been doing those, the unlock starts to happen. And when you have that unlock, you're going to be 2.5 years ahead of competition. Now they can catch up fast because AI can close that gap quickly. But if you're not thinking about it and you're not even contemplating or talking to the right people right now, then you are going to be that much further behind because the best in class are already there and those that aren't are heading that direction. So it's time to start engaging. The time is now. It's not as scary as it seems. And we have to just utilize this tool and this new piece that's going to integrate with our life in so many different ways, both professionally and personally.
Awesome, man. Well, I don't think there's any better way of ending today's episode. Thank you all for tuning in, like and subscribe. And yeah, we hope you found something valuable. And please, please, please reach out to us for the one shooters that we have, whether it's AI enablement for your business or your personal life, and more for the marketing and SEO and business owners out there that are engaging in SEO practices. Certainly reach out to me as well for all the instructional kind of guide that we shared today.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for anybody who wants to reach out, get a hold of me. Instagram, I am active there as well as LinkedIn, but Instagram's pretty easy at Shane Chalupa. And Sam, for those that want to reach out to you, I think you've mentioned in the past Sam Lee, best or
Sam?
LinkedIn.
Yep, Sam Lee, LinkedIn. I mean, if you're wanting to engage on Instagram, that's perfectly fine too. Sam Lee _ key rise.
Awesome. Yeah. Look forward to the engagement, continued discussion, and what a cliffhanger we've got. I want to see that output so bad and what you can do next. So I'm excited for the next one.
You got it, my man. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye.